Big Bear Lake is where we all lived, and as you know, one word that would describe him the most, and that's tenacious. You know, that he would not give up, and whatever he focused on, he would finish, and he would probably finish first. This started in school. When he was in high school, as a freshman, he made the varsity basketball team, the varsity football team. He went out for track and field. He led her the first year, by the way. And I'll bet you didn't know this. Bob was a very proficient trumpet player. That's right. He played the trumpet, and he did it really well. He also played the drums. In fact, one particular evening at Big Bear High School, they had a talent show, and he won. Surprise. Playing the drums. And his act was called Glittering Drumsticks. So as you know, Bob, his exploits into success started very early. This one particular year, I think it was 1957 was the first year he did this. In Big Bear Lake, we had a contest that's called an annual burro race. Okay. Now, this burro race actually started in Victorville. And the idea was the competitors would take their burro and they would have a race. It only took about 3 days because they would go in stages. And they would race back up the hill into the city of Big Bear. The first one there would win. So Bob wanted to do this because why not? He's never done it before, so he'll do it. Well, you know what makes this competition so unique is when you sign the registration form and you get your number, you also have a burro with the same number. The key to this, and what was really interesting, is all these burros were wild. Okay? They didn't like men at all. They liked people. They were wild burros that they captured in the desert and brought these things all together. And for the race, all the burros had to have a miner's pack on the back of it. You know, a wood frame with the canteens and the pans and the bedrolls, and you know, trying to make it authentic. Well, just putting that pack on, as you can imagine, is a challenge. And Bob's patience has never been, not real long, you know. So you can imagine him and that burro went around more than once. In fact, we had one burro he punched between the eyes, but that's another story. Anyway, the morning that the race was to start, all the competitors would bring the burros to this line, this imaginary line out in the desert of Victorville, and it was pretty flat. And it was just one long line of about 150 competitors and all these crazy wild burros that didn't want to be there. And as if that wasn't enough to start the race was a huge cannon. Now imagine when that cannon goes off, what the reaction is going to be. I remember looking at Bob, and he's standing there with a false sense of confidence, knowing, I'm going to do this. And by the way, he was wearing shorts, t-shirt, tennis shoes, and a straw hat. So, the cannon went off, and so did all the burros. And they went off in all kinds of directions. You know, Victorville might have been that way, but there was a lot of desert. And you can see these dust trails taking off. But Bob, he stayed with his burro. He ran faster that day than even he couldn't believe he could run that fast. And he was following the burro, by the way, because he was holding on to his rope. You know, and he managed to finish this race. He did get hurt on the way. At one point, I think he hurt his leg, and the last 2 days was pretty tough for him. But he finished. He didn't win the race, but by golly, he did what he started out to do. And by the time that race finished, him and that burro, they were just like that. But anyway, now one other story. A little later on in the years, we mentioned the fact that Bob was into motorcycles. Well, me too. And for many years, after Bob got his first motorcycle, actually that first year, he had his first one, his little 1200. I came up and I rode his Goldwing, and he took me to Sturgis, and that was the first time I was able to participate in that, and had a great time. And I decided, well, I'm going to do this again. But the next year, I bought my own Harley, and Bob has moved up to a larger Harley. So we're up there having a good time year after year riding around Sturgis. I mean, we put down the miles. We would come up here started in Butte, and by the time we got to Sturgis and through that, we put 4,000 miles on these motorcycles. But we had a blast. But this one particular thing that we would like to do, has anybody heard of a Boss Hoss motorcycle? Okay, well, the bike riders know. Boss Hoss motorcycle is a motorcycle on steroids. I say that because it has a big block Corvette engine in it. It's a motorcycle with a big block Corvette engine. Now, these crazy people that own these things, they would allow you to ride this motorcycle. They would just say, well, you got a license? Yeah, okay, just sign here. You know, just tell us that we're not responsible for your medical bills and we'll take responsibility for the bike. How stupid is that? But they do it every year. Anyway, Bob and I decided to do this, and what an experience. We get on these motorcycles, which are huge, and Bob's wearing one of these little canvas hats, like a little sports cap. And I didn't have a hat on at all, because I didn't want to. Anyway, the guy leading this procession of motorcycles said, look, stay with us, don't get separated. There's about 10 or 12 bikes. And we were on the highway, Interstate 90. And they took off, and we were in the last half. And we were kind of in front of the last half, going about 60 miles an hour, just having fun. And the bikes in front of us just disappeared. I looked over at Bob. I said, Bob, we need to go faster. We were going to lose them. We're supposed to stay with them. He said, well, let's go. I said, okay. And it was a 2-speed transmission, these things. I put down the first gear, stepped on it, and oh my God, I could feel my hair burning. We took off so fast. And I look at Bob, and he's hanging on to this bike. He's got this big smile on his face, and his hat is still on his head. You know, I'm thinking we're doing 110 mile an hour if we're moving at all. And my hair's sticking straight up, and there's that hat on his head. I'm thinking, how in the world? You know? Well, we got back to where the starting point was. We shut the bikes down. We both have these grins on our face. My hair's sticking straight up. Kathy still laughs to this day how I look. But I looked at Bob and said, how did you manage to keep that hat on your head? And he said, I don't know. And he pulls it up, and there's a hole in his forehead. And he had this little pin that was holding this little thing on his hat, and it embedded in his forehead. He didn't even realize it until he took it back off. But that's what we did. Bob was a character. He just, whatever he did 100%. And nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. And anyway, I appreciate you letting me share the stories. Thank you.